This is Genuine Connections, featuring collaborative conversations about community, content, creativity, commerce, and the convergence of media and marketing.
Brian, welcome
Thank
to
you.
Genuine Connections. Welcome to Cannes, although I don't know if I should be welcoming you.
The heat welcomes me to Cannes.
Well, yes, this is, it's a little bit of a tinderbox for us, both from creativity and ideas and connections, but also the temperature. This is not your first Cannes.
This is not my first Cannes.
Is this the hottest Cannes you remember, though?
I think there's actual statistical recording now that this might be even like the hottest like couple of days in French history.
Okay.
I think that's literally what we've heard. There are people from West Texas that were like, wow, this is really hot.
So we're making history already.
Yes.
But I want to talk about not only your history, but also the present, what you're doing, what you're building, and just get your general take on all things that are happening in our industry.
Awesome.
So welcome again.
Thank
you for being here.
Appreciate it.
Cannes is one of these really unique experiences where we bring together the creative, the technology, the media, and it all really focuses on progress and innovation. In your time here so far, besides just running on probably minimal sleep, some coffee, and maybe even some rosé, what are some of the things that are powering or inspiring for you personally and professionally?
I think it's really, we forget, I think, coming from the ad tech side and from the media side and the publishing side, that this is an event that's really about the creatives. We kind of co-opt it a little bit. We kind of take it over and we sell a bunch of stuff. And like, there's a creative award show that like we don't talk about too much. But I've been really impressed by Cannes' sort of acknowledgement that retail media in particular is this growing phenomenon. I think it's reached something like $71 billion in the US alone, making it the fastest growing channel. And this year, actually, the Lion, the award group, turned around and said, we're going to introduce new categories next year that are specific just to retail media.
It's a category-defining event.
Exactly right. And I think they're acknowledging what retail media is really about, which is about the creativity that they can use and the data that's powering it. It's not just about like in-store shopping, it's the data that gets kicked out of it that I think is really exciting. And so they've created these two new awards, not for this year, but for next year, that are going to be specific to retail media as a category, and that you have to prove in order to win the award that you used first-party data to drive the creative and to drive the actual business outcomes. And to me, that is like super exciting. Much more exciting. Like AI is cool, and I love to talk about AI.
We'll get there, yeah.
I'm sure we will. But I do think that from my perspective, this fastest growing channel, a place that the company I work at now, Infillion, has really embraced and made a really significant investment in. I think that's super exciting. I think it's that like, okay, creativity, yes, but also it's about this category that's growing and matters to the business, not just about someone's cool TV commercial, right? And that data and measurement are driving that award. So I think that's fun.
Art is always subjective, but there are ways to measure how it makes us feel. Now there are literally data points and proof points and provable, viable ways that we can ascertain whether something, effectiveness. There are effectiveness awards. So next year, that'll be interesting to see who submits, who wins, and what that nomination and evaluation criteria even includes.
Like I said, I think it's really interesting that it's a creative award, but it's not just about the creatives. It's got to be about the infrastructure and the machinery and the data that goes into it. And to me, that's bringing together what, like I said, I feel like we kind of co-opted this event a little bit. And I feel like this really brings it together. And that's been energizing for me.
Okay, so you've been here before. And within the last, year or so, you've taken on this new role as COO.
Less than 7 months now.
Oh, okay.
It's just 8 months now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't live in an org chart in our space or understand exactly what the role of a COO plays at an organization like yours, because Infillion has really grown as our industry has grown, both as a leader and an innovator. But now, what are you bringing to this role, and what is expected of you?
Oh God, so much is expected of me. I can't deliver on any of that. But what I'm going to do, that's a joke. I'm there to provide like an operational backbone. I'm there to provide sort of discipline around. So let's talk about Infillion for a second. So I'm the COO of Infillion. Infillion is a company that has been built by acquiring several very substantial media and technology brands.
Use the word composable, right?
I'm going to.
Pieces together.
I promise.
Oh, you're okay.
I'll get beat up if
Okay,
I don't use the word composable. But it's true. It really is. So Infillion is bringing together some really high-profile companies, Media Math, especially Catalina, our most recent acquisition, which is why I talk about retail media so passionately. We've got the gimbal business, which is location. All in all, we've compiled about 11 different companies, and we have taken all of those companies, stripped them down into their rawest, most composable assets. Think of it as like a periodic table, right?
Okay.
Like in order to build the elements
need to come together as
that's
compounds.
right, in order to build compounds.
Sure.
And so that's what we've done. We've stripped all this stuff down, we've re-engineered it, and we've actually MCP enabled it so that it is ready for agentic buying. And by doing this, we've actually took all of this great infrastructure, all the way from the planning process through to buying, through to measurement, and said, look, we're not gluing together a bunch of stuff and making you buy one monolithic sort of rigid stack. We are creating this set of assets with composability at its core so that you as a marketer, an advertiser, or as a partner, someone who wants to leverage those platform pieces, can build from it what you need. If your focus is on the upfront side of making a media plan come together, then you could bring only the assets that we provide that make that possible. If you're really interested in just the delivery and bid optimization, we have the assets that you can use to make that work for your particular system. But you don't have to use the parts up front, and you don't have to necessarily use the parts on the back end. And I think that's one of the things that people were struggling with. Switching costs were very high because integrations were brutal.
Timely and resource heavy.
And trying to figure out, well, I want this whole thing, but I don't need X and Y. I just need the Z piece, and I need Z to do it a little bit differently. That was very difficult to do. It was an impediment to adopting new technologies. It was an impediment to changing, to get the best of breed partners. And our philosophy is that this kind of composable concept allows, whether, like I said, whether it's a buyer of media or someone who's actually a seller of media and wants to use our platform in order to deliver it and make it come to life for their customer base, they're not locked into using all of the pieces. And because in this re-engineering process, we sort of structured it for this next generation of media buying, which is not just people talking to each other, not machines talking to each other, but like data being shared between different components, right? So it's the strategy manifests from insights. Those insights manifest into instructions that you put into the machine. The machine has to go ahead and do something that optimizes for the experience and hopefully learns from it. More and more, humans are not going to be able to do that in real time. We need the agents to step in and facilitate. And so this MCP layering of everything allows us to take each one of those components and make it accessible through these agents that are going to like facilitate what I think is going to be really an exponential leveling up of the quality of delivery that all these platforms.
Yeah, and facilitating the internal tools, processes, and outputs, but also in a way that connects to get the best out of what others have built and really optimize against not just the power of whatever is within your owned ecosystem, which includes technology and humanity, but everyone's.
And we don't know that necessarily our agent is the right agent for those customers. We want to work with this, we're agnostic, right? So we want to work with as many partners who produce solutions specifically for the media industry, whether it's on the upfront planning side, on the delivery side, optimization side for performance, or even on the measurement side. We're not going to be leading, I think I touched the mic. We're not going to be best of breed necessarily for all of those, at least not right away. And so we've provided our own agents that can go soup to nuts, or again, leaning back into this composable concept. If you want to use a particular agent with a particular specialty, or if you've built one yourself, we welcome it. We want the platform to be able to facilitate it.
And that's where, as we look forward, I think there is a more crystallizing, if it's not fully clear yet, idea of what those opportunities look like, where they come from, and even your customer, the umbrella concept of your customer, right? They're all different in their
personas,
own ways, of
different
course.
personas.
Yes. But the marketer, and I'm making air quotes, is traditionally someone that relies on others for understanding and innovating with technology. But I think that's becoming increasingly part of the job description. Is that education for that audience a priority for how you're communicating? Yeah,
for the marketer specifically.
Yes,
absolutely. I don't think you can. And so it's really interesting. One of the things I've heard to the last 2 days now or 3 days now is that everybody loves AI. Everybody's really excited about it. People still have a lot of trepidation. But what's become obvious is that a lot of places just leaped in, embraced it, and are using it a little bit haphazardly. And the costs associated with it are starting to get out of control. Mm-hmm. And so we think that part of our role is to, we came out really, you know how many end-to-end models came out the week before Cannes? 8 agents, literally full stack, full life cycle of a campaign. Agents came out the week before Cannes for press releases.
All of them?
On big platforms?
Yeah.
8.
Wow.
Count them, 8. So we rolled ours out because, again, the whole concept is this notion of breaking everything down, making it MCP enabled. We rolled ours out for CES, actually. So it's been in market for a long time.
In AI, that's like dog years.
It's forever, right?
Yeah.
But we really haven't nailed our pricing model yet. We're leaving it open, whether you want to leverage our particular account, whether you want to use your own tokens, whether you want to build your own agent, however you want that to work. We want that learning experience to be somewhat organic. We want to partner with the marketers in particular that want to leverage these services. We want to partner with the other sellers of media, the other channel partners that are trying to figure out how to use AI to reduce costs, improve their efficiency. And so we're looking to help them build not their models for their LLMs, mm-hmm. but like their models of how they deploy these things into their operation. How do they reduce costs? How do they increase the efficiency if you're not even looking to reduce costs, but you've got 10 people and you need them to do the work of 15? And so we're actively working with people to help them understand where in their process, again, a whole order to cash kind of view of things, where you could plug in agents, how those agents can work with the Infillion transaction platform and all of the other facilities that we've built around that, so that they can get a better result for those media campaigns. And it's tricky because you're still teaching people what is MCP, what's the difference between MCP and AdCP, what is a token? I don't understand.
And how do I know that what I'm creating is governed by the right set of protocols and everyone is speaking the actual same language?
That's right.
Maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't right now, but to your point, the cost of not being involved is high, and the cost of being too quick may also be high.
There's a middle ground to take, again, which is why I think an agnostic approach right now is the healthiest one. But you have to get serious about it. And it can't just be like, slap AI on the end of a company that used to be .com mm-hmm. and pretend it's something different. You really have to go through that process of re-engineering everything and understanding your own processes, where you have opportunities, where there were bottlenecks before, and deploy AI in a selective way.
I think that's, as we look at the present and as we've talked about the future, I want to also take a look back and understand what's built your operating system, in that, for, let's call it several decades at this point. We can count our careers in decades, which is, we've been here long enough, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the success that you've had in actually building media enterprises within, iHeart, HuffPo, Yahoo, Reuters, there are probably more in there that are an impressive name. It's like the NASCAR of who's who.
My first job out of college was with Blair Television, TV rep firm. I was an assistant. I was a sales assistant. I was a media planner at Buena Vista, Disney. Yeah. And then I took a job very early on, like 98 at Yahoo.
Are there through lines as you look at each of those steps that not just led to where you are now, but either a consistent thread that has kept you on the trajectory you're on?
I'm a lapsed seller. Like I think of it like being a Catholic. I'm Jewish, but like I'm a lapsed. I still like kind of live and breathe the seller's mentality. I get most excited when there's a customer and you're brainstorming and trying to demonstrate the value proposition of your company, of your product, whatever it is. And in the very early days at Yahoo, we rode that big wave up, then the bubble broke, and we were kind of left like with pieces of stuff. And I was one of the few people, at least in the New York office, that was sort of a classically trained media person, because I came from TV and I was a media planner. And I think at like 28, I was maybe one of the oldest people in the organization at the time. It's just in New York.
It was a young person's business. Yeah.
And so I also had a master's degree in I had an MBA in finance. And like somehow like they were like, listen, you're a good salesperson, you have all the right energy, but what we want you to help us do is figure out the right way to structure this business so that when we go to market, we present an IO, the terms and conditions make sense, the pricing makes sense, and that we can execute against what we're delivering. And so that role of translating big ideas into operational, just manageable components of the business is something I've always done. So from like my third or fourth year as a seller, I gave that up. I moved over to operations, and then I've been figuring out how to scale businesses since then. And honestly, like that's really what I did at iHeart, which was the job I had right before Infillion. We had acquired 6 or 7 different ad tech companies that were being composably put together, I'll say, to service the audio business, because none of the ad tech companies were really thinking about audio. We needed to service ourselves and make sure that what we were building really met our specifications. And so we acquired our way to having, it's them now, they have acquired their way to having what I think is one of the most preeminent advertising tech stacks in the industry. It just happens to be for audio specifically. And so Infillion, not for long, but they're gonna branch into video, and they're gonna do a very good job, still a shareholder. But Infillion is doing a lot of the same things on a different scale and with a different philosophy. It's not just about one particular narrow media, but we are acquiring these companies, bringing them together, creating the right integrations, making sure they have a cultural thread that makes sense to the value proposition that the market sees, and that the employees inside the company can appreciate, understand, and help them execute their jobs. They're not confused. They're not a Truex, fantastic company, engagement advertising, value exchange. But the people who came from Truex, they don't think of themselves as Truex employees. The people that come from Catalina, they don't think of themselves as Catalina employees. They think of themselves as Infillion employees. And that way we can serve all of these personas in sort of a unified, coherent way.
Yeah, I mean, there's the cultural integration, there's the technical integration, there's the process-based integration. And I've heard Rob Emmerich,
our chairman,
say that this period in time is like a once in a generation or once in a 20-year storm in terms of what is evolving from programmatic into something that is agentic. And that's a term that we've heard a lot this week. It means different things to different people because agents, it's like marketing, it's like advertising, it's a term that encompasses a lot of different functions. But now you're tasked with actually bringing agentic to
life.
Yes. So what does it mean to you, the word?
I mean, I think it goes back to a little bit of what we were saying before. So if you think about like the different, like media was sold like hand to hand, then it was sold by rep firms, then it was sold essentially programmatically. That would be the third generation, which was still like human mediation to put the deals together, but ultimately they're being executed on platforms. What agentic means is now ultimately and again, like agents is a great word. I do think of it as data and insights being brought to life in a way that humans couldn't possibly manage, which was the whole concept behind
speed and volume.
Programmatic, speed, volume, decision making, the ability to react to new information as it comes across, the ability to customize what you're going to do with let's say there's a singular line item and I want to treat that one line item 3 different ways. you really can't do that right now in the third generation way of operating, where there's contracts involved, even with good old fashioned programmatic. You don't have the way to take a singular line item and treat it three different ways. With agentic, you have that ability. It's now turned over to machines, turned over to algorithms, turned over to data and insights. If you just boil it down to its most simple, core,
elemental,
the things that matter. What foundation. Is it? It's data and insights that are driving outcomes. And now you're not disintermediating humans, because humans still need to think about the strategies that are building into it, but now you can execute those strategies in a much more effective way. And that's what I think this next generation, this fourth generation of buying that Rob talks about, this agentic powered experience is. It's about taking all of these data and insights and unleashing them, taking them out of the limitations that people place on them, because we're human.
And in terms of where that comes to life, how it manifests, I mean, Infillion talks a lot about her false choice between the
walled gardens,
the walled gardens and this messy open internet.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there really is an imbalance, but certainly in terms of the way that money and investment has flowed in the previous 2 decades, it's been imbalanced. How do we break that? How do we actually shift that towards where we think it probably belongs?
It's a great question. I think the real difference, the real reason there was an imbalance, right? The reason that Facebook took a disproportionate and search took a disproportionate amount of revenue out of the ecosystem relative to time spent, in particular, was because they had great measurement. They had the data on the other side to validate that this campaign produced this outcome. Now, maybe they gilded the lily a little bit on some of that and took credit,
marketing, and
took credit for some stuff that maybe they didn't deserve. But nonetheless, that's what they had. And I think that's one of the reasons why Infillion bought Catalina, is because Catalina has, at the SKU level, this treasure trove of actual in real life consumer shopping data, not just e-commerce, but like human beings across America going to the grocery store and checking out individual items. We have that now. That's a part of our infrastructure. And for the CPG companies in particular, and this will branch into other areas as well as we grow and as we evolve. But for CPG in particular, now instead of being dependent on these walled gardens and these very siloed ecosystems to know what the outcomes were of their media campaigns, we actually have that data. And so you can plan against the open web and have the same level of fidelity that you would have in campaign measurement on a walled garden, but without the walls. And so I think that's where Infillion in particular, and there are other places, but Infillion in particular can help companies open themselves up to where the vast majority of content consumption on the web is happening, which is on the web and on mobile devices. It's not necessarily happening on the social networks. It's not exclusively happening in search, less and less in search all the time, and help people really have this holistic closed loop measurement for their campaigns, inclusive of not just ROAS, but also incrementality and other measurements as we go along the way.
So if we take a look at our surroundings...
Do you buy that?
Well, of course I buy it.
I just want to make sure.
As we talk about and think about and build for the open internet with the genuine infrastructure and network, we are...
highly distributed.
We're banking on the fact that the walled gardens can't deliver on what consumer behavior is ultimately evolving towards, whether it's video consumption in an environment that's more brand safe and trusted, or following that consumer as their journey goes between different experiences. That's what we're...
And I think generationally, the walled gardens are going to be challenged. In particular, the generation that is committed to Facebook is getting older. The generation that's committed to these other platforms, regardless of what they are, they're less interested in the types of advertising and marketing that we're doing right now. I think we'll develop new strategies to reach them and talk to them. But I do think that there is a real need to change that imbalance, at least for the next several years, and bring a lot of those dollars back to the open web, back to these platforms. I'm not a publisher myself, like iHeart Media, where a lot of time is being spent, a lot of good interaction is happening, a lot of brand loyalty can be fostered, and we can provide measurement to prove out that that's happening.
So we're at a creative festival, as we discussed,
Very
right?
creative.
We've seen some work already. There will be more that will be celebrated throughout the week. But that duality of humanity and creativity with technology and, I don't want to call it artificial intelligence, but maybe
it's singularity,
augmented
we're
intelligence
all
at the
in
very
trouble.
least.
Yeah.
What role does human creativity play in what you've defined and described, so far?
I mean, we still have to be there to figure out what the value proposition is to the consumer. We have to know when I say we, give credit, I'm not a creative. Like, I've been in operations and sales my whole career. I have had creative flashes, but I don't sit there and think about the way consumers engage with a product, what draws in their loyalty, what makes a little kid ask their parent for a particular product. And I think we as the humans are still there to really kind of analyze and understand and apply the way those things come to life, and also to maybe help shape that story and maybe lead consumers a little bit to tell them the things that we maybe, and I don't know how healthy this is.
Influence
but
is
it's
still
important,
a human-driven.
But it's important. We have to teach people why they want the products that we're bringing to market, and I think that's still valuable.
It's actual intelligence. AI to human is actual intelligence.
Actual intelligence. I like that. We should tell people who's talking about that.
So get cameo from Genuine CEO and founder.
It's literally the voice of God.
Bargov Patel there. We have an audience here, so as we do at live events, bringing real people together.
So just to say it, like, I still think that the creative types, even on the sales side, to think of really unique sales strategies, to understand where operational
human-to-human connection.
Where operational practices need improvement. All of those things still need to be guided by people. I think it's the agents and the AI and the technology that can step in there and do things faster, more efficiently, help us course correct. But then again, and I'll say the obvious, which is like, you have to have some flock tending of what these agents are going to do. You still need 2 prompts to get a reasonable response out of Claude when it's just writing a simple email. So I'm not willing, and I think most business people are not yet willing, to turn over the entire budget of a particular large-scale advertiser to a bunch of machines just talking to each other. I think that people have to be in there to grade and to provide with the impetus to move these campaigns from concept to delivery and to renewal.
So as we wrap up at least this conversation, the festival's not yet over, although by the time people are listening to this, we will have gone home and
we will have stopped sweating,
recovered in every physical and maybe emotional way possible. But is there anything that you've heard or seen, or a conversation you've had that has maybe shifted your thinking, or as we approach the second half of this year, like 2H is underway, how you're going to rethink or reframe or reorient something that you're working on or communicating?
Yeah, I like I said, I mean, I think the retail media business is really about data being leveraged to create a more powerful and impactful media campaign. Right now, retail happens to have a tremendous amount of data, and they've really been able to, like, it's the most direct, right? It's I've got this information. I know this person bought this product. There you go. Go ahead and use it in whatever way you want. I think there are dozens and dozens of other categories that are maybe a little bit less robust than retail is, but they have the capacity to influence the way marketing works, the way we think about products. And so you see it a little bit like with the Marriott Media Network. And I've just spoke to a colleague who is really focusing in on sports and how the fan bases and...
it's really a commerce and consumer ecosystem
well said.
Is not just retail in the traditional understanding.
That's
because
right.
We consume.
Yeah, but fandom, passion, all of the things that we talked about 10, 15, 25 years ago that we were never really able to bring to life. It was just sort of retargeting and maybe some modeling of lookalikes.
Community reimagined, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I don't like to get too esoteric about it, but I do think that I think that's the next level of being able to extract information, and I think the machine learning capabilities that are there make this more possible, to start to do some of this more really exciting ways of creating both a better user experience as well as a better advertising experience. And so I'm talking retail. I do think that like going to spend some time with our product team and with our data team and start to think about ways like we get beyond just retail, especially for the non-endemics, like for the non-CPGs, like what information can I extract from all of this consumer data about consumer packaged goods that might help a different kind of brand understand who their consumers are and how to talk to them. Harley Davidson, like a couple of different, there's Harley fanatics.
You don't walk into a
and then
Harley
there are
Davidson
Harley
dealer.
buyers.
You don't walk into a dealer and just, you're going to go buy something for the first time without having thought about it, researched it, been exposed to some event that was inspiring, right? So you're right.
And so how does all this data help Harley understand who their different personas are, how they're going to talk to them? Is this person just a fan and that's great because I want to sell them Harley Davidson merch?
Right.
Or is this person like a real buyer?
Right.
And that's not the same person. And I think that like their consumer behavior, their shopping patterns might tell us a little bit something about that. And that's a place where I'd want to spend some more time.
Well, as long as everyone's wearing their helmets when they buckle up and get on their bikes.
Drive safely
and
not in the rain.
We're all good to go, yeah. Well, Brian, thank you for your
pleasure,
your wisdom, your expertise, your insights. We made a genuine connection. We had to come all the way to Cannes to have this connection.
You all don't know this, but we know so many people in common. It's kind of ridiculous. So this was fun.
This is what the network and the connection's all about. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Buy Infillion's products. Thanks.